Hello, ladies and gentlemen, people of the diabetes world. Today we're going to discuss, now let me get this pointed out clearly. I'm not a professional. I cannot give medical advice. So don't take anything I say and do it. Unless you want to talk to your doctor and get that person's, him or her approval. Discussion purposes only. So, I'm on the front lines of diabetes, which means I don't take my meds. Rarely. I often get 300 milligrams per deciliter. And you know about toe ulcers. You can see this toe had an ulcer maybe 5 years ago. Maybe there's a scar of the event. It looks pretty normal. I'm not sure what my diabetes in milligrams per deciliter is today. I gotta go test, and I have a reluctance to do so. But I'm making this video to share with you. Okay, on this toe, there's your somewhat healed diabetic foot ulcer. It's healed to the point where I no longer get a rapid infection if I put this into the moist environment of a tennis shoe, which just is like a incubator for fungus, bacteria, and whatnot. So this diabetic foot ulcer had been with me, or has been with me, for about 5 years, not healing. It would shrink, then it would explode again. So being a diabetic, your tissues get softer in the environment of the higher blood sugar, as evidenced by, I think they take ducks or geese, foie de gras or something, and they overstuff the little duck or goose with food. They force feed them in order to make the meat more tender and sweet. Well, there you go. Same thing happens with a diabetic if they can't get their diet down to. Well, enough of that. This toe flared up in the last few months. You definitely can see it's swollen more than it was up top. But it was getting dark and purple, so if I'd went to the emergency room, I'm pretty sure they would have amputated the toe. Let's not get into the whole nother world of that. So this is how I did it. I realized that it was out of control. I went to buy a meter, and sure enough, because I hadn't been testing in a couple of years, I think it was 300 and something was my reading in the midst of my toe infection, 320 milligrams per deciliter. So obviously I was in a full-blown situation here. So using my powers of logic, I took my metformin, wow, and I instantly decided to start not eating a thing. And also I went for walks. Like every couple hours I would go walk around the block for a mile. And within 24 hours of total fast, except for water, guess what I was able to bring that blood sugar down to when I read it next, after 24 short hours. Now before I tell you that, I'm going to act like those sales pitches. Think of an alcoholic. Let's say his voice is slurred. And every night his voice is slurred. What the heck? The guy has a chronic illness. It's permanent. Well, so they lock him up for disorderly contact, for squeezing a girl's butt or something. And guess what? The next day his voice is not slurred. A miracle. Well, not really. We all know what happened. That's right, he stopped having the access to the alcohol. So I was able to get my sugar down within the span of 24 hours to 125. Of course, that would be like a miracle cure if I was able to keep it there. Alright, so I tried to keep it there. I then started, because people love to eat and need to eat, I started eating those steamed vegetables in bags. You get them in a bag, you throw it in the microwave, you steam it, and oh, you got yourself something to eat. Totally low in calories. But do you know how hard and how, when you go to the doctor, no doctor professional will ever advise you to fast. It's not easy to do, especially for several days. It's just very hard. But I was realizing I was either got to go to the doctor and get my toe amputated, or I got to continue with this. Another saving grace is I was also simultaneously rummaging through many old years of prescriptions, and again, this is not advised, but it's just what I did on the front lines of my illness. Clindamycin, I found an old bottle of that from past infections. Clindamycin, this was recommended to me when I lived out in the tropics of Hawaii. This was the go-to drug. If I went to my doctor, bam, they'd give me clindamycin. It was always got rid of a skin infection. Well, I ran out of that. Some more bottles lying around of, I think, amoxicillin and doxycycline. Again, antibiotics to try to clear out the bacteria, probably bacteria from the inside. And on the outside of my SOTOR, not SOTOR, but toe sore or toe ulcer, I tried to hit it with iodine, put iodine on there. I tried tea tree oil again. I don't know if it did much effect because shortly after I'd put that, here's my attempt at a diabetic shoe. Take the pressure off the wound, but that's so thin it didn't have much of an effect, but hey, attempt. So where am we at? We were getting the toe infection inside my body to go away. So the swelling, the coloration came back to normal skin colors. It still is kind of a reddish, but what you can do to push the skin and see the return of the capillaries. You can go to a doctor and have the nurse push it and tell you, okay, give it a special name, refill or something. But there were still cracks and crevices where the moist bacteria would rapidly just get back in there and infect the situation. So without you further waiting, this is what I finally found that would actually do the job. My mom told me, well, why don't you try soaking your foot? And if you go on some medical professionals' talks, they say, oh, don't soak your foot. So again, I'm going against the common medical professional. Anyways, I mixed me up a batch of Epsom salts, baking soda, and table salt, sodium chloride, sodium bicarbonate. I think that's magnesium sulfate. Whatever you call Epsom salts. This I'd used in maybe 2 parts Epsom salt and 1 part baking soda and 1 part sodium chloride. Again, kind of random mix there. And not only did I pour it in, I saturated it. Where's my little bucket, my saving bucket? Here we go. I saturated the solution. In other words, I dumped a whole lot in, not just a tablespoon in a gallon or something. So I made myself here you can see the salts have crystallized even. Pretty gross, but hey. So that liquid's like brine, some Epsom salt brine. Alright, I decide, okay, I'm going to dip. I patted my foot in there for maybe 60 seconds to let the, well, what the heck, let's do it. I patted it in there. And there you go. I would then let it soak in a little bit more and maybe wipe that down, but then I would just put that in my sock, put my foot in the sock, and I would try, while it was still kind of bad, I would put let it dry enough so I could put a Band-Aid over it and also wipe off the excess so the Band-Aid would stick. Again, he said, what do you call it? Sorry, I didn't mean to say Band-Aid. That's a, what do you call it, regulated trademark? But yeah, some kind of wound covering. And that promoted healing quite a bit. It made this thing finally seal over. So I guess when these callousy skin material, which is probably not living, it's however you create calluses, or the outer surface of skin, which you can scratch off. But it was skin material soaked in the brine, which made, I believe, it made it more inhospitable for living bacteria. Living bacteria. Now, the final kicker that really helped the final sealing process work is after it had dried, I was still getting tingles of an infection coming on. You could feel pain shooting up your blood vessels and throbbing every 10-15 seconds when you know you had a skin leak. Anyways, you can usually cure that by just taking your foot and having your foot open to the air under your desk if you had a job that allowed you that. But the thing that really, the Epsom salts did a majorly improvement, and the next thing was some kind of product related to new skin. Again, that's a brand name, but it's like that liquid that seals, makes its own band-aids or something. So I coated the area with new skin, let it dry, and then I didn't even need to wear a band-aid. And I'm no longer getting, it's been about a week now, I'm no longer getting shooting pains that says, I've been reinfected. Well, I'll leave you at that. It's time for me to go eat my breakfast, which I don't need to do. And good luck and good Godspeed in your journey against diabetes, foot sores, ulcers. Thanks for watching.